A very good evening to you, our listener out there. And once again, I would just like to welcome you to this very weekly program, goes by the name Face the Mic. And today here, I'm very much honored to have with me Professor Dr. Peter Baofu, an American scholar and writer who has so far written 148 books, whereby by next week, something surprising is that it's going to have 150 books exactly. Dr. Peter Baofu, you're warmly welcome.
Thank you for inviting me.
Well, this is TBC International Studio, and as I said earlier, that we are so much honored to have you in the studio here.
Thank you for...
Yes, my name is Dar Es Salufu. I'm going to be with you all the way to 4 o'clock East African time. Well, so far, you've already visited more than 95 countries around the world. And by next week or next month, God willing, maybe you'll have a total of 100 countries to be visited by you. Now, I just want to know, is there any relation between you visiting such a big number of countries around the world and having a big number of new theories?
That's also a very good question. Let me answer that in two ways. That is so important, your question in terms of what I'm doing. That's why I'm doing something so unusual, so extraordinary that no human being on earth in terms of being a scholar has done something like that. Many people, when they have written a book, normally they spend a lot of time, especially when they are professors in the library. In the older days, many of those people never traveled around the world in order to understand, to propose something new. And even when they do, they only go to one country, 2 countries, and specialize in so and so and so. And what I'm doing is something tremendous in the sense, I said to myself that I would like to travel around the world, not just in one culture, one country, or one ethnic group, or one race, in all of them with no exception. And this is a massive project. So in the end, what I'm trying to understand is that how different cultures, different society, and different people on earth have been sharing, but at the same time are also very distinguished from each other. And in that sense, you understand reality in a different way. And this is one of the things that a lot of people, especially in this case in the West, where I'm from, but also in many other countries on earth, they have been committing one mistake, which is very tremendous, is that they tend to look at the world from the perspective of their own culture, their own society, their own nationality, their own education, and project that into the rest of the world. And this is, by the way, is a common mistake made by many Americans nowadays. And I think that this is a very grave and serious mistake in scholarship. And you ask another question, is there another relationship between the number of the theories and the number of the countries that I have visited?
Yes.
I think that there is a correlation, because the more countries that you have explored and lived, I'm not talking about visiting a country for 1 day and 2 days, you go to the museum, you take a picture of yourself, and you send a picture home and say, Mom, I'm now in Tanzania, here's my picture. I'm not talking about this kind of visit. This is just for tourism. I'm talking about serious visit to understand a culture, a society. You just put yourself into the life and culture of another people and try to understand them, interact them, and come with some new understanding about that. I'm talking about this kind of visit, not like a tourist visit. And in that sense, the more you travel like that, the more you explore, the more your ideas can be more productive and more prolific. Yes, I do think there's a correlation. In fact, not only that, I do think that in the end, the more you visit, the higher your intelligence is going to be too. You become smarter in a certain way, because you will see things in a multiple perspective that you could not see before. After spending all this time in other countries now, whatever topic that you can share with me, I can see things in many, many perspectives that I could not before when I was at home, when I was younger. So that is a tremendous correlation. Not only that, but much more than that.
So this is to say that out of your tour or your visit to different societies and exploring their culture and stuff like that, that's where also you develop some new theories, correct?
Yes, but it's not just. By the way, this another question people ask me a lot too, but you did not ask. But let me answer them here anyway because it's related. You also need something else, which is about you. You need to have an unusual mind too. That is genetic. You cannot just say anyone can just go to many countries and you expect the person to be by the end of that trip to 100 countries, he become a tremendous scholar and thinker. It doesn't work out that way. You need to have unusual mind. If you do not have that, even if you repeat what I do 1,000 times, you still will not produce. So there's another part of that which is individual, which is genetic. Look at me. Do you know Muhammad Ali, the boxer?
Oh, yes.
Okay. I'm not a boxer. I'm not a boxer. Even if I spend 1,000 hours boxing like Muhammad Ali, in the end, I shall not be Muhammad Ali. You understand me?
Yes,
so even if you repeat what I do, you go to 100 countries, will you be Peter Baofu and produce 116 new visions of the future? The answer is no.
A very big no.
Yeah. You can produce more or less, but you will not be 115 unless you have that unusual mind too.
Well, I know culture is a total way of life of a particular society.
Yes.
And you have been going to different places just to get to see and get to know their culture and stuff like that. But I know some cultures, once you look at them and once you see the way people behave, I don't know what to say, but they are very, very surprising. Now, I want just to know, how do you manage to adapt new culture, especially when you go to all those different, places or countries?
Yeah, by the way, this is a very interesting question for those people in anthropology. I have written a book on anthropology too, so I'm quite aware of this kind of question. Let me answer your question this way. If you ask me this question at the beginning, let's say 20 years ago or 30 years ago, my answer could be that, yeah, it was very difficult for me. I remember that I did not finish 100 countries only in the last 4 weeks. I've been doing this for more than a few decades already, so I'm on and off. It's not that I finished in the last few weeks. So at the beginning, it was very difficult for me. You encounter some cases where you simply cannot adapt because you are just very different from the cultures that you have been put in. But on the other hand, I think that is also a question of experience and individual ability. The more time and travel that you have done, I think that sooner or later the more you will be able to adapt to many different countries, even if you do not approve what they do. So that's the good news. On the other hand, it also depends on your own individual ability. Some people are much more able to adapt than some others. Again, part of that is cultural, part of that is social, part of that is natural, but the other part, as I said before, is individual, in this case, genetic also. Some people are just better in doing certain things, just like boxing or doing mathematics. So don't expect everyone that go to 100 countries, but at the end of that 100 countries, you will be an amazing adaptive person. It doesn't work out like that. There are some people that I know, they have been in many countries, but at the end of their trip, they think like what they thought before. They seldom change. In fact, they keep cursing those people that they have visited. They cannot adapt. I have met some people like that. So the good news, the bad news are there. So it's not a question so simple that...
Remark from Professor Dr. Peter Baofu. Then we've come to the end of today's Face the Mic program. Just to remind you today, I had with me here Professor Dr. Peter Baofu, an American scholar and writer, doctor and professor. Thank you very much for
Thank you for inviting
here.
me.
Yes.
Yeah, thank you.
My name is Dar Es Salaam. Much thanks to you, my listener out there, for being with me all the way from the start to the end. See you next time. See you next Friday. Coming up next is News Bulletin right here on TBC International 95.3 FM. Bye for now. And